Tonight, face to face at last for the Super Clash, the Twin Towers versus the Mega Powers. It all started in the golden days of summer when the Madness joined the menu to mark the first triumph of the Mega Powers, the Hulkster, Macho Man, and the lovely Miss Elizabeth. But very soon, the lying smile of Brother Love betrayed the Hulkster, stunned by the brutal Boss Man. And blinded by the sly slickster, the Hulkster barely survived a beating that would have crippled the lesser man. Justice came swiftly for Brother Love, but the slickster continued his vile agenda as his bully boys Boss Man and Akeem Pearl Harbored the Mega Powers. Ejected from the ring that night, the treacherous twins were soon back to their dirty work, double-teaming the lone Hulkster. But then, the ultimate in cowardice, the handcuffing and vicious manhandling of the lovely Miss Elizabeth, enraging the Macho Man Randy Savage to this heroic rescue. The Slickster's response? A barbaric assault on the exposed spinal column of the Macho Man, rendering the brave champion helpless. Only the full brunt of Hulkamania could deter this treacherous threesome and issue the challenge to clash. Fair and square, team versus team, tonight in the main event.
This is the Pro Wrasslin Reflection Podcast with your host, the Professor Chaldero Veracruz.
What a run!
Mr. Wonderful Tommy Wonder.
And I will take the powers of those that have no fear!
And the prodigal one, JB.
The queen, the cream of the crop.
Now it's time to go back in time in the time machine.
The dream! Nasty round! Too sweet!
The living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass!
To be the man, you gotta beat the man! Woo! Look at this! He's I don't believe it!
What is going on there, Reflectionites? What is going on there, Big Vitoites? It is your friendly neighborhood Professor Chabela Cruz, magnanimous, scholarly, vivacious, ultra-studly, but most importantly, the glorious Professor Chabela Cruz, the only objective man in the IWC, the only objective man on the PWR Facebook fan page, the only objective man on the PWR podcast Facebook Facebook fan page. My goodness, I must be drunk with I'm drunk with power reflection. You know, whatever the case may be. It's the vodka. It's the Long Island iced teas. It's the Budweisers. It's something out there. It's not the COVID, but it's something else inside the professor's system right now. But don't worry. I will get through this. We will get through this together. And welcome to the PWR podcast here at the PWR Networks at Podbean.com. And, of course, on the Big Vito brand on Patreon. And the Big Vito brand on the Twitch. My goodness, the professor's tongue twisting today. You know what it is, Reflectionites? You know, yesterday was a great night for the professor. You know, a woman slid into the professor's DMs. So this way, before he gets shocked, you know, with the tongue twisting. Huh? No. Not Tyler Rex, not Nyla Rose. She was full-blown woman from birth. Okay, so this is a great thing here. So that's why the tongue twisting is happening for the professor. But anyway, we're gonna get through this. What?
Your tongue's tired. I got it. All right.
Yes, it is. But anyway, welcome to episode, what is it, 132, 133? I forget the number. Big Ray will, correct me when I'm wrong. Will correct us when he makes the Facebook postings, the posters, if you will. But let's just say it's episode 133 of the PWR podcast here at the PWR Network at podbean.com. And you heard that voice, of course, friends of the Magnificent Seven, friends of the Big Vitoites. It is the conservative liberal. It is the man in charge, the Gorilla Monsoon of the PWR podcast. Your friend and mine, Mr. Wonderful, Dum Dum Duo himself, the Iron Stomach, Tommy Wonder. How are you doing, my friend, this week?
Doing good. And I have one question.
What is that question?
Last time Tom Brady got the 6th Infinity Stone, what does he do now that he has the 7th?
He gets another glove.
He does. He's no longer Michael Jackson. He's Thanos with 2 gauntlets. Oh, I know what it is. He's got that Iron Man gauntlet now. He's got 1, and he needs 5 more for that one. Damn, I just ended the world. Did you watch the Super Bowl? Did the team you want to win?
I didn't actually care about the Super Bowl this past week, TW, to be quite honest. I was hoping for Tom Brady to get the 7th ring, but no matter, the GOAT of all time of GOATs is LeBron James. King James is still the GOAT of GOATs.
He doesn't even have the most NBA rings, let alone the most rings. So listen to me. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a Michigan State fan, so that means I'm not a Michigan fan. So I have Tom Brady. I just respect as a guy who's watched football his whole life. He's the best there is. People keep bringing up this Deflategate. There's a new documentary out that basically proves there was never any evidence that he did cheat. There's multiple people on this documentary saying he couldn't, and basically the entire thing was the NFL saving face because they accused him of it. So rather than actually saying, he didn't do it, they did the little the Mueller investigation tactic. We're like, we couldn't prove he did it, but we couldn't prove he didn't either, which last I checked, it was innocent until proven guilty, not you got to prove your innocence. But the reason I cheer for him now, even more so than ever. You think I would ever cheer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl? They used to be in the Lions division. It was Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota. And there's probably someone I'm forgetting too. But I think it was just those 5. Now there's 4. So anyways, he is the Jeff Gordon of football. I don't even watch Nerd Card, but when I did pay attention to it, I always cheer for Jeff Gordon because I knew all the diehards hated him, so I wanted him to win. It's kind of like the Yankees. Everyone hates the Yankees, or the opposite. Everyone loves the Yankees, so I rooted against the Yankees because they were America's team. I hate Dallas Cowboys. I hate the people that everybody loves. I love the people that everybody hates. Tom Brady is, how does your guy Ben Hameen say it? Heels over strong? Is it him who says that?
Yeah.
Brady's a heel, Jeff Gordon's a heel, but they're the Kurt Angle heel. They're the ones that come out and tell you to drink your milk and have integrity and everything while just beating your ass. And they don't even have to be a heel. They're so not heel, they're heels, and I love it.
You know why I cheer for Tom Brady? Has nothing to do with the 7 rings. Has nothing to do with anything. Just one reason and one reason only. 40 is the new 20, TW. Yeah. You and I are in the same bracket. So, for all the young whippersnappers out there, respect your elders because we can still kick that ass. And shout out. He's 43. I'm 43.
There's a show on Amazon Prime, if you have it. It's called Download or Upload. I think it's called Download. I don't know. It's the guy from Arnell's brother, the Green Arrow that wrestled, Stephen Arnell. Is that his name? Amell. It's his brother. The Marty Jannetty of the ML brothers, but he's much better looking guy. That show, Tom Brady's walking out as he's walking in. I'm pretty sure it's that movie. I think because they keep downloading new bodies. And so basically the whole joke was that Tom Brady was coming there to get a new body, that he trades it in every now and again. That's how he keeps playing. And that was from a year and a half ago. So, he's still spreading them rumors. But that dude is just a winner. And someone sent me a meme today where it says COVID won't be around long and then it says COVID, and it's pictures of Tom Brady for the last 16 years saying that's COVID. It's going to be around forever, just like Tom Brady. But the funny thing is, he's in better shape now than he was when he started. He was kind of bloated and chubby when he first started in New England, and now he just, he knows his body's his paycheck, so he takes care of it, unlike me.
No, you know who takes care of it for him, his wife, Giselle. That's all that matters. You gotta have your body taken care of if you're married to a hot model like Giselle. But anyway, Reflectionites. Yes. But anyway, Reflectionites. That was our little Super Bowl spiel here. But let's get ready. I got the number now. It's episode 131. That's the exact number of the PWR podcast, and we are celebrating an anniversary, so to speak, because this February of 89, this happened. No, it wasn't 33 million viewers, Reflectionites, but it was maybe it could have been 15 million viewers, TW. Maybe it would have been 20 million viewers, but you can call that a big drop-off, but it's still 20 million viewers, so to speak. We are going to talk about the main event from 1989. The main event where it was on NBC, 8 o'clock, February 3rd, 1989, from the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The frozen tundra. This is your country. This is your neck of the woods, TW. And we are celebrating this because, on last week's SmackDown, Reflectionites and Big Vitoites, there was a segment. They were celebrating the main event from 1988, the 33 million viewers, TW. And, I picked this episode for two reasons. One, just like you said, TW, when you talk about Tom Brady, you gotta, I love to piss people off. And there's nothing that pisses people off right now in Twitter world than Hulk Hogan, racist Hulk Hogan. I don't have racist Hulk Hogan on speed dial right now, Reflectionites, so he's not going to talk about it. But anyway, TW, I needed at least to get a Hulk Hogan episode here. And number two, since he already talked about slamming that stinky giant in 1988, let's talk about 1989's main event, the precursor to WrestleMania 5, the precursor to the Mega Powers exploding. And TW, the funny thing about the main event was we always talked about the high-arcing, there's this word, high-arcing storyline. So the high-arcing storyline for the past couple of months, from 1980, let's say from SummerSlam 1988 to main event 1989, was the subtleties of let's just say a little bit of drama, so to speak, between the Mega Powers. The drama between Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan, because you saw it between that time period that Macho Man had that kind of look of rage, look of jealousy, supposedly, to Hulk Hogan. And it manifested into this episode. So we'll get into the spoilers and all that stuff. But talk about that precursor, SummerSlam to now, before we even talk about this match, TW, in TW's eyes.
It's funny because as a heel, Macho Man wanted nobody near Elizabeth, unless he was using her as a human shield. So it was always weird to me as a kid, but almost in a good way, to see him not being upset with Hogan being near her, right? Like he trusted Hogan or whatever, but it was like, oh wow, he's grown up. You know what I mean? Like he realizes everybody's not trying to take his girl, blah 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 blah. But then you see it. But I got a second take on it. You're doing storyline, but I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, this is before the Warrior beat him for the belt, because Savage won it at 4. Hogan took it from Savage at 5, and then Hogan lost it to Warrior at 6. I always think Warrior won it at 5, right? For some reason, it's probably because that Roman numeral with the 6, that looks like 4 but inverted. But and it made me realize, not that I want to pile on Hulk Hogan, but this is like when Macho Man won it, Hogan had to help him. He hit Dibiase with the chair. And then he wins it, and then Hogan's got to bail him out all the time. And then, they're in there. I did like seeing Macho Man in there with Akeem and Boss Man, where he would be considered a smaller guy. I mean, he's really not much bigger than Bret or Shawn, and he's in there with these behemoths that Hogan's always in there with. But But this is, if you're looking at it through the eyes of an observer, not a fan, you see that I've always felt like Hogan sabotaged Warrior by leaving, but he sabotaged Savage while staying. Like everything he did made Savage look bad as a champion, right? So the heel turn and giving the belt back to Hogan is basically Hogan getting his way, getting the belt back, even if it was planned ahead of time. I don't care. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't think Warrior ever got a fair shake as champ. I don't think Savage ever got a fair shake as champ. And it's almost better for Brett and Shawn that their runs came after Hogan was gone, because it felt like whoever was there was not getting a fair shake as long as Hogan could do anything he could on TV. Like, and I know it's part of the storyline, but all the stuff that happens, every other word out of Hogan's mouth is Randy didn't mean it. Randy didn't mean it, right? Like, so everything he's doing is throwing Randy under the bus, always. And
right.
So for me, even like if you suspend disbelief of reality, Savage is almost a good guy here because A, Hogan's all over his woman. B, he's trying to make him look bad to his woman. So to me, in hindsight, Savage is justified because all these years he thought everyone was trying to take his woman when they weren't.
Right. Hogan
really is trying to take his woman. And then you got the real life stuff where he housed her when they were separated and all that. So this is a lot of...
Oh, you went into the future of the 90s, but let me just say that,
like, it's imitating life is what ends up happening. But
I get you.
Pay attention to this feud, how can you blame Savage?
Oh, absolutely. I don't blame Savage at all. I think Savage was actually justified in everything you just saying. But you know what the funny thing is? Let's go back a little bit because what you said actually resonates with a lot of people. Actually resonates with the professor. You said Savage didn't get a fair shake as champion. When he won it in 88, you know, as much as anything, it was grandstanding from Hulk Hogan to help him win. It was grandstanding for Hogan to share the spotlight. It was grandstanding to share the spotlight with Savage as a champion for the Mega Powers run. Now, we all know the logistic reasons that Hogan was filming No Holds Barred during that summer of 1988, so he needed some time off before, you know, of course, coming back for SummerSlam 88, Mega Powers, Mega Bucks. So now, TW, let's look at the examples before we get into this match per se of the hierarchy storylines. Remember SummerSlam 88 with the itsy-bitsy, teeny-weeny yellow polka dot bikini, even though there was no polka dots, it was red. It was some good red painting.
Still in the bank. That's the greatest I've ever seen Elizabeth look was that day.
And the one thing that Hogan did that Savage, it stuck in his mind, was Hogan touched the ass of Miss Elizabeth when she was being carried on Macho Man's shoulders. Hogan copped the feel. Savage didn't know this until the replay was played in the locker room. He kind of let it fester. So that was one issue for Savage. Issue number 2 was Survivor Series of 1988. Now this is kind of funny because there was really nothing that really spoke of the grandstanding. It was just like, you know, little things happen here and there. You know, I think Savage was handcuffed. Hogan was handcuffed. They were kind of like bouncing back and forth with the feud they were having with the Twin Towers. And before we even talk about the hierarchy storyline, TW, a quick minute synopsis of the untapped potential of the Twin Towers. The real black man of the group, Prince Akeem, and the big boss man. I mean, you know, in 2021, TW, we might be making fun of this group because of the costumes they're wearing, but this is larger than life. This is a gimmick that just works. Now, you know, I know you're a UWF guy, and probably you hated Akeem being Akeem because he was the one-man gang, former UWF heavyweight champion. But you got to admit, at least for WWF purposes, it's like the Bushwhackers and the Sheep Herders. Akeem just added a different dimension to his character in the WWF, and he needed Akeem more than he needed One Man Gang. What say you about the Twin Towers?
I'll go one step further, because he actually was One Man Gang there for a while before switching.
Right.
But I will say this. I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion or if people have common sense like me, but you mentioned the Bushwhackers. A lot of people were mad about them being the Bushwhackers after being the Sheep Herders. I talked about it, about how I was legit scared of these guys because of all the highlights of them just bloodying everybody up, 85, 86. But I don't think anyone's going to argue the bushwhackers were 10 times more lucrative for them than the sheep herders were.
Absolutely.
Akeem, as silly as it was, it's actually it's endearing to me now. Like watching him do that promo before the match, he's all in. Like, he embraced it. Like, he's the anti-Red Rooster. He is all in, loving every second of it. Yeah, One Man Gang was a big badass, whatever, but really, what did it get him? He's the one-man king. He's got he's Akeem the Dream or Hakeem the Dream, whatever he was. Akeem, yeah.
Akeem the African Dream.
Right. But it was a take on Akeem Olajuwon's name. So, but Hakeem the Dream. But he embraced it. Akeem was more lucrative for him than One Man Gang ever was. And lastly, one more guy. And the reason you know this is because when they come back for Legends Night, they don't come back as the sheep herders, come back as bushwhackers. If you see Akeem, he's Akeem. He's not One Man Gang. The other person on that list is IRS. Probably one of the worst gimmicks of all time. The only thing worse is Right to Censor, which is very similar in look. But the bottom line is, IRS made that dude more money than anything Mike Rotunda ever got paid for. You know, even Michael Wall Street, all that stuff. He even came back as IRS after leaving and becoming Michael Wall Street, which was basically an attempt to still be IRS, right? A loaded guy with, you know, a suit, whatever. But all these gimmicks, and, you know, I hate to say it, I never ever in a million years thought I would, but I missed that because everybody was different. You know, there wasn't 3 cops running around. There wasn't 3 white dudes playing Africans, you know, running around. There wasn't a guy dressed like Macho Man around the fucking curtain waiting his turn. And it was only one Hulk Hogan, one Warrior. Even the Road Warriors were there at the same time as the Warriors. They didn't look the same. One is this big, tall, muscle dude with long hair and loud colors. These two are weird haircuts that plug into each other, and they're wearing red and black. So they're the muted version, but also the more massive guys. And everyone looked different, whereas you turn on wrestling now, any of it. There's a million guys in NXT that look the same. There's a million guys in AEW that look the same as the million guys in NXT, Raw, SmackDown. So as much as
gimmicks separated the wrestlers. Gimmicks separated the personalities. Gimmicks gave them range. You knew who you would. Yeah,
confuse people. And like, as much as I'm not a big New Day guy, because I think they're the modern bushwhackers, they're loud, they peacock, they stand out, they have a good time, and they're endearing. They're 6 years in, and but that pink and blue, and then them outfits they did for Brody, that's pretty awesome stuff. But they have their own look that no one else. And my favorite guy is Xavier.
No one can touch the New Day on the gimmicks, you could say.
And the boots that Xavier Woods wears, like the little Aladdin boots looking things. Like, he's my favorite. I can't believe he's not singles yet. Like, he's got every opportunity in the world to be made singles, because every time it's just him and Kofi. Kofi gets hurt. So, but I digress. I think Hakeem then hated it. Now appreciate it for what it was.
And the Twin Towers, again, before we get into this hierarchy and storyline and this match reflection and Big Vito Whites, on episode 131 of the PWR podcast, Twin Towers should have been the tag team champions.
Right.
They missed the boat on that one.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
There's a reason Andre the Giant finally got a title in the WWF, because they had Haku to do the job. Who are you beating on the Twin Towers? Who should they lose to? No one. And we're going to get to the end of this, and we're just pointing fingers at the Hulkster, because something happens at the end that pisses me off, because, like, again, this is going to make me defend John Cena, but it's who's taking the loss?
It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous.
They're 300 pounds. They're 6'6", 7 inches tall. Who's beating them to win the belts? You would inevitably have to put. Well, I guess you could have an Andre and Haku type team win, and then that guy can lose it, and then we can go back to small teams. But really, you can't put belts on big giant guys like Andre. Like, Andre as a singles champion would never lose it, so you can't put the belt on him. Like, it would have to be. And then if it is Hogan that beats him to win it, then Hogan can never lose, because he beat the guy who can never lose, right? So you're just stuck. You're stuck. Obviously, you got guys.
I don't know. I don't know. I kind of disagree. I think you could have had a 50-50 booking between them and Demolition.
1989.
Yes, you could have. I think you could have.
They booked monsters as monsters.
Like I said, I think you could. No, again, this is WWF booking, so they can't have the heels of the Twin Towers win. I'm just saying, in my own humble opinion, you could have had a nice 3 to 4 month run as tag team champions.
You know who they broke that string with is Earthquake and Typhoon. Where Who beat them? The freaking Road Warriors or the Nasty Boys. One of them 2 nut jobs.
No, it was Money Inc.
Oh, even worse.
But anyway, again, the hierarchy storyline, we went to Survivor Series. You know, that was supposed to be the, I guess you could say, the genesis of the Mega Powers. They survived all the odds against, the Twin Towers team. And again, there was a little friction with Macho Man's, he had the look. He had that look of disdain. He had that look of rage against Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan was turning a blind eye. Nobody, the only person that actually noticed this was always Jesse the Body Ventura, because he was always a Macho Man fan. Even though that he was a babyface, Jesse Ventura always, praised Macho Man. He didn't like him as a full-fledged babyface, but he praised Macho Man because that was one of his favorite wrestlers as the heel commentator. Now we get into the interesting part, TW, Royal Rumble 89, and Macho Man blames Hogan for, eliminating him in the Royal Rumble. And, of course, it took the lovely Miss Elizabeth to, hold it all together, hold the Mega Powers together. And, of course, Hogan lasted a little bit longer, and he got eliminated, but that's neither here nor there. Now we get into the main event slot here. And you kind of mentioned it here, but this was the first time in main event, because of the main event 1989, it was the first time that Hogan actually mentions that there was a relationship between Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. If you really looked at it from anything before the main event 1989 Reflection Nights, there was no mention of a relationship. There was no mention of them being boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever the case may be. It was husband and wife. It was him, and that was his valet or manager, whatever the case may be. He protected her. He did all the shenanigans. If anything, the funny thing was 3 years prior to 1989, George the Animal Steel was trying to get at Miss Elizabeth. He wanted to get them digits. He wanted to slide in her DMs, so to speak, Reflection Nights. But Macho Man was very protective of that, and people were cheering for George the Animal Steel to be Miss Elizabeth's girlfriend. So now we fast forward 3 years later. This is different. This is different here. And you know what, TW here? TW have a little bit of a microphone issue here, so just kind of like, just try to, I don't know if it's your Skittles that you're eating at the microphone, but just hold off a little bit. But anyway, this interview was kind of funny, TW, because it kind of recognized that relationship. It was kind of weird here. So what say you, TW, about that?
He ran down the throuple.
Yeah.
Him and Elizabeth had a friendship love. Him and Macho Man had a brother love. And Macho Man and Elizabeth, Macho Man had that love for Elizabeth like a man looking at a woman love. And I, like you, was like, whoa, is he about to say they're married? And he didn't. He stopped short of it. But Macho Man was on board. He was all in. He was like, yeah. Like, he was basically mansplaining to Macho Man the difference between his love for Elizabeth and his love for Elizabeth. Like, yeah, I love her, but like a sister. You love her like, ooh, and make babies.
Yeah, so, and Macho Man, you could see it in his eyes, Reflection Nights. He was kind of like, why are you talking about this love that you have for Elizabeth? That was the first thing, because it triggered him, because he heard love and he heard Elizabeth in the same sentence. So you saw that it was kind of like, ooh, he took a step back here, Reflection Nights. So that's one part of the spectrum of the interview that caught the professor's eye. The second point of the interviews was the Twin Towers. Now, the Twin Towers interview was plain. It was, it was heelish, TW. But it was one thing that caught my eye on this one. It was because of what Mean Gene said. And, we live in 2020 wonder. We live in wokeism, as they call it. He accused the Twin Towers of being Al-Qaeda. He accused Twin Towers of being, like Saddam Hussein, North Korea, South Korea. He accused them of being terrorists, TW. Did you hear the promo, the interviewing styles of Mean Gene Okerlund of that? And it kind of threw me off like, they weren't terrorists. They were just heels doing heel things, heelish things. Heels going over strong. What did you think about that?
Ironic that Twin Towers would be the ones that he's calling terrorists, right?
Yeah.
here's what happened with me. I'm watching the Macho Man, Elizabeth, and Hogan get interviewed by Gene, and I'm looking at the screen going, I wonder if Hogan ever watches this and realizes he's the only one left. Then they peel over to the Twin Towers, Slick and Mean Gene, and I'm like, both guys on the left are gone. Both guys on the right are still here. Like, it's just sad that really isn't that long ago, and these guys are in their 30s. So they should be around in their 60s right now, not dead for 10 years, 15 years. And it's just, wrestling has a way of sobering me up when I watch it sometimes, when we watch some of these 80s, 90s, early 90s, but mostly the mid to late 80s.
It's very humbling to know that only One Man Gang and Hulk Hogan are still left from this titanic confrontation here. Yes, it is.
I don't remember if the referee was Joey Morella, but he was always the referee for Hogan. So until the Hebner stuff, and then it's insane how many people are gone. And it's just like, you know, when we were doing the show years back, we'd watch a WrestleMania and I'd lose count because every match had at least one dead person. And then finally we got to like Steamboat Savage, and that ain't a good one. Savage is gone. It was a match where I was like, wow, both guys and the referee are still alive, and I was pleasantly, you know, surprised, not surprised, but finally that, you know, somebody was alive still in every aspect of the match. But it's just, you know, it's sobering. And so when I was watching them interviews, I wasn't paying too much attention. Hogan, Savage, and Elizabeth I did because of all the love stuff. But then that's when it hit me. And then when they went over there, and I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but I just remember Akeem just kept bobbling his head and just being all in. And then Boss Man saying something about, we beat him up, and if you bring that person, we'll beat that guy up too. And I just thought, they're doing good, you know. And then I digressed again where I'm like, my mind wanders, and I'm like, that's Big Bubba Rogers. That's the War Machine right there from War Games. That's the War Machine. And then Slick, I don't know whatever happened to him. I think he got into wrestling on accident and then got out in the middle of the night. He left town just like, you know, he came in. And
he devoted himself, you know, like a born again Christian. He devoted to the church. So, you know, the Slick is still around. He's just devoted more, you know, full time to the Lord. He's serving the Lord. Yes, you and, you know, Pastor Vogt should do something together. You know, you should, you know, slide into it. No, I can't book it. You know, you slide into Slick's DMs. Yeah, you got to. You got to slide into Slick's DMs and say, let's do this. He could be. We'll find him. Right. But anyway, let's get into this main event. This is, you know, there was 2 matches here. It was on NBC. You know, it was like, I think it was 90 minutes long, if not, or just an hour, because it was just very, you know. It was 8 to 9. It was either 8 to 9 or 9 to 10, depending on where you was living in the United States. But anyway, the first match is the Mega Powers against the Twin Towers. Now, TW, we could talk about the certain, you know, intricacies of this match, but I just want to say something here. I want to go a little bit back, you know, 3 years ago, and then bring it into the precipice of here. Now, in 1989, I'm about 11 or 12 years old by this time here. So I'm getting a little bit, I'm not going to say I'm getting a little, you know, wind of the business, so to speak. But I noticed certain things. Like, I remember when I saw this match coming here and I saw all the stuff, the hierarching storylines that I was talking about, right, TW? I remember Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan. I remember Paul Orndorff betraying Hulk Hogan. And that one kind of threw me off because it wasn't as subtle, so to speak, until 3 years later. Then I was like, I took all the, you know, I did my homework. I wrote my notes here. I was like, wait a minute. Paul Orndorff was pissed at Hogan for missing a gym membership or something. Paul Orndorff took over a match against the Moondogs, and Paul Orndorff was pissed that Hulk Hogan grandstand during his match against Stud and Bundy. So it was imperative that Paul Orndorff was about to betray Hulk Hogan. I was like, oh, wait a minute. It's main event. And I'm going like this. Main event, last year Hulk Hogan got screwed out of the title. This year Hulk Hogan's getting betrayed by Macho Man. I was expecting Macho Man. There was nothing surprising here. What about you, TW? I know you're like, you know, you're in your teen years, but you had to see this coming, did you?
I was 13. I'm still living in Detroit Rock City without cable, so I was pretty happy this was on free TV. I do remember watching it, and ironically, hindsight, of course, I remember when it was over, I think I was more upset with the fact that there were only 2 matches than I was that Hogan got turned on by Macho Man. Like, I was upset, and I want to say as a 13-year-old kid, I'm like, because if you watch it, not only does Hogan leave and not care that he left Macho Man behind, he looks around and acts like he can't hear Macho Man asking him questions behind him before Akeem grabs him by the hair. So, again, maybe not at 13. I remember being stunned when – I remember being happy when Elizabeth sent him back in and Hogan came running out to save the day. But I remember being stunned when Macho Man dove over everybody and knocked Hogan through the gimmicks back there, the blinds and whatever they had set up to make it look like an infirmary.
Right.
I just remember being stunned, and it's funny you say about Orndorff because I'm pretty sure that was on Saturday Morning Superstars against Jobbers, wasn't it? They was just
Saturday morning or Saturday evening, but it was Superstars.
But it was Hogan and Orndorff versus Jobbers. So A, it was a rare occasion for Hogan on TV wrestling. It wasn't just a promo, and B, it was the shot heard around the world, like the clothesline from hell. Like to this day, as a 47-year-old man, if my buddy's standing next to me, I'm holding that arm up and then turning and clothesline him. It's beautiful. And in my 3rd match ever, Rico and I, our first 11 matches, we went to a time limit draw, 15-minute time limit draw. And in Lincoln Park, Michigan, I wrote about meeting Too Cold Scorpio on a post that the Dawn of Destruction put up. The night I met Too Cold Scorpio, I asked him to watch mine and Rico's match and give us pointers or whatnot. And so at the end of our match, the crowd's chanting 5 more minutes. We're green. It's our 4th match ever, first one in the U.S. And I stick my hand out to shake his hand, right? And he's looking like, no. We didn't talk about this in the back. I just did it in the moment. And the referee's A.T. Huck, and he's watching like, what are you doing, Wonder? What are you doing? And finally, I grabbed Rico's hand, and everyone could tell him, don't do it. And then I pulled him in for the hug. And then when he pulled out, I pulled him back in and gave him a knee to the gut and gave him a spinning power bomb without telling him. I just did it. And then I told the referee to count it because it was a sit-out. And all you hear is, you asshole, because I made him look bad, right? But also, they're already chanting 5 more minutes, and I did that. So now they want to see us wrestle again next month. And they want to see Rico kick my ass because of what I did to him. And unfortunately, they didn't book us to come back next month. But we wrestled all over Michigan, Ohio, and Windsor against each other. But it was just an in-the-moment thing. And it was very Paul Orndorff. And that's probably where I got the inspiration to do it. But Orndorff, man, to me, it was a what for. So you saying about the gym membership and about, missing the appointment at the gym. And then Grant saying, I remember him saying that after, not before. So it's the Mandela effect, right? So he was telling people why he turned on Hogan, but I don't think I saw it coming before it happened. And I just remember thinking, what? And contrary to his name, I didn't take the name Tommy Wonder because of Paul Orndorff. I took it because of the Wonder Man in the Avengers. And so obviously I liked him because I just like the name Wonder, like all things Wonder. All right, I like this guy. I did steal Number Wonder from him because of his tights. Number Wonderful. I just used Number Wonder. But Macho Man turning on him, I think they did a good job of making him the original loose cannon. Like, you knew something was coming to a head. It's kind of like Walking Dead. Shane and Rick, one of them had to go, right?
Right.
By the time that happened, I didn't care which one it was. Whereas I stopped watching once Rick left the show. But that night, I would have been fine with Shane being the guy that killed Rick, and Rick's gone, just because every episode they're trying to survive and everything, and these two are bickering with each other. So just like that on TV, Hogan and Macho Man are trying to get things done, but Macho Man keeps bickering with him. So something had to give. It would have been nice in hindsight for Hogan to turn on him and take Elizabeth, and Hogan be the heel. Then we could have had the NWO 10 years earlier, but he didn't do it.
Who knows? Well, that's hindsight being 2020.
It was
but
all
now,
about
of course, it's about the Wing Eagle belt. That is a beautiful belt. But anyway, let's get into this match here per se. Now, you know, a lot of things that people blame Vince McMahon for, and, you know, this is actually a microcosm of it because, you know, he takes his two singles guys, heels and baby faces. You got Macho Man, you got Hogan. You know, this is a tag team main event, but this is like, you know, this is almost telling us that Vince McMahon doesn't cater to the tag team scene. He doesn't cater to tag team wrestling because he needs his singles guys.
Something happens at the end to tell you that too.
Yeah, that's the problem here. So, you know, it's almost like it's symbolic, TW, that, you know, we're seeing like 4 single guys in a tag team match, but, you know, it's a microcosm of what we're going to see in the 90s and the 2000s and people bickering and bitching and moaning on Twitter and Facebook. You know, why does Vince McMahon do this? Thank God for AEW and tag team wrestling is back again. You know, TW, we saw this happen in 1989. Maybe we were just blind to the fact, right, TW? Or I'm just like nitpicking right now.
And it's very essence of, you know what? I think I just figured out why he did it.
Why?
Ricky Steamboat got run out of town for stealing WrestleMania 3 out from under Hogan, and I believe 87 and 88, the tag team Survivor Series matches stole the show, and from that point on, they never had that thing again. It became those teams of 4. Or they just put tag teams.
Wow.
And then it just became the redheaded stepchild to be a tag team. And just to skip ahead to what I'm talking about, you probably caught this too. At the very end, when Hogan goes looking for Macho Man, he first of all tosses
Neidhart
down. Then he goes past Neidhart and tosses Shawn Michaels by his face. Then grabs Bret Hart by the face like he's a little baby. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? And then stares Marty Jannetty down and just made their 2 top tag teams look like bitches while he's out looking for Macho Man. And I just thought, wow.
Symbolism, right. TW. Right. It's your man. It's the man, you know, controlling the world in Hulk Hogan, bitch slapping the tag team division.
It's because they stole the show in 87, 88 Survivor Series.
I never looked at it from that perspective. So you actually opened the professor's eyes saying that. So think about this, Magnificent Seven. Think about this, Vitoites. 87, 88, after that, the tag team division was never the same in WWF again. So you blame all those tag teams in Survivor Series 87 and Survivor Series 88. So now let's get into this, TW. Let's get into this match per se. You know, what did you think about the match? You know, the way it was going before we talk about those high spots. And, of course, the most infamous spot of Macho Man hurling into Miss Elizabeth and then everything snowballs downhill from there.
The match didn't do much for me because what it was a Hogan versus Big Man match. He just was doing it with 2 big men. And then every now and again, Macho Man was involved. I did like I said, but it was mainly when Macho Man was left alone in there. I liked all the stuff he did. Like, he looked like a cat, right? Like, he's using his agility and speed to offset Akeem's size and like running to the top rope, jumping over the top rope with the neck over the top rope on Akeem, doing all these things that you'd have to do as a smaller man against a big man, either that or chop the leg. And that would be boring as shit. So he's doing the high flying, the double axe handles. Akeem takes the absolute laziest high cross body bump I've ever seen in my life. Like, I literally thought he was trying to catch him and fell, but then they got a pin and then Boss Man broke it up. But I just, you know, I'm wanting to skip ahead too much because, again, it's going to, I cringe when people talk about Super Cena, yet they're all... No. But before the race video and all that stuff, you know, tainted Hogan, people love that guy through everything. This guy, we talked about it on many shows. He wrestled as a heel. He did finger gouges to the eyes. He did back rakes. He threw salt in people's face. He kicked them in the face. He ran him into the turnbuckle. He did a lot of illegal stuff, and he was this big baby face. But he buries guys. Like, if you're a big man, it's inevitable that you're getting fed up the system, smoking everybody until you get in there with Hogan, and then you're done.
But you know what, TW? I understand where you want to go with the Super Cena and Super Hogan concepts, but let's stick to the bad.
Cena was that bad.
I'm not talking about that. Let's talk
about the 16-time world champion. Means he lost it 16 times.
Yes, he did. 4. No, Hogan is like 5 in WWE.
Yeah, 5. He got a testimonial one when he came back. But I mean 4 in his peak.
No, 6 actually in WWE and 4 in WCW. So he's 10 times. So he's okay. But anyway.
I'm talking about 84 to 90 when he was relevant.
Okay. But again, forget about the Super Cena, Super Hogan thing. Let's go into the Hogan wants to act like this is the Oscar performance, that he's trying to win an Emmy, he's trying to win a Tony, he's trying to win a Grammy. The spot of spots where Akeem the African Dream hurls Macho Man Randy Savage outside the ring, and God bless Miss Elizabeth. She took one for the team, and I don't know, Vince McMahon must have gave her $100,000. I would say he paid her $50,000. The least $50,000, the most $150,000 to take that spot, and she took it well. I mean, for any valet, she took the hardest hit I ever remember in the 80s. You know, this is before ECW like took it up a notch with power bombs through tables.
Still safe.
Right.
This was just her taking 260 pounds to her 80.
Right, to her 80 and to the head and to the neck area. So that was one thing for. But TW. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Hulk Hogan, the actor. Terry Bollea, the actor of acting. The man looks so concerned for Miss Elizabeth. He put his shoulders on Macho Man saying, "Oh, you're all right, brother. You're all right, brother." He kind of he nudges him away, and then he goes into Florida Evans. Why? and carries Miss Elizabeth out. What did you think of the acting abilities of Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea?
For one, Elizabeth broke wrestling rule 101. Dead sold. Like she literally was dead. At one point, Hogan had her arms on her chest like this.
Wait. You said she broke a rule. I thought she kind of, held on. I mean, she kept it.
You're not supposed to dead sell. You got to give the fans some signs of life. That's why Mike Utley did the thumbs up. You got to let people know you're going to be all right. And she's just dead. Like she's not breathing. And then that just signals Hogan to be the most over-dramatic, terrible, fake crying ass. Oh, by the way, I watched a lot of wrestling this last week. I was watching the build-up to the Hogan-Michaels match. Gold. Lots of gold, and it's all on the network. You can just go to the April of 05 and the July of 05 Raws and see Michaels' interviews and stuff. But Lillian Michaels got dumped by Viscera. And when she had to introduce him to the ring against the Heartthrobs, by the way, I was seeing for the first time, how long were they in the WWF? For a week? Because I don't even remember the Heartthrobs. Romeo and Antonio. Terrible. That's the third heartbreak. Anyways, they told her, "Hey, you got dumped by Big Vis, but we'll make you say, yeah." And then she introduced Viscera with her lip trembling and then sat ringside crying because she was heartbroken that Viscera broke up with her and joined the Godfather and the Pimps. Or the
Hose.
The Hose.
Yeah.
But anyways, Hogan, please be alive. And all I thought was, good Lord, if Vince Russo has a problem with Drew McIntyre's sword being on screen for 30 seconds, he'd really be upset to see Elizabeth dead selling and Hogan saying, be alive. Oh, Liz, please be alive. Randy didn't mean it.
This is over dramatic acting from Hulk Hogan, but the great acting, again, I have to give props where props are due. I mean, Hogan sucked. We know this. We're not even gonna dispute this. I'm not trying to do counterpoint because we're both, on the same page here. But look at Macho Man Randy Savage. He gets his wind together. He gets his faculties all together. Did you see the look? The look of rage.
What are you doing?
He did. Yeah, what are you doing? This is my woman. This is it. Everything was not about his manager. This was about his woman. And Hogan not only copped the field again on that ass, but he was holding on to Elizabeth. Another man is holding on to my woman. You don't do that.
They did do one thing to protect Savage here, because easily Hogan could have said, well, you didn't even see if she was all right. Well, he was trying to, but Hogan was bogarting the situation, and Akeem grabbed him by the hair and pulled him back in the ring, so he never had a chance to, which never comes up. But Jesse, well, he likes Macho Man, so he's not going to do it. But Vince could have said, well, Macho Man didn't even try to help her, so Hogan had to, and but they didn't touch on that. But I like the fact that Savage looked like he was trying to, and then Akeem stopped him. So made it better.
Yeah, so Hogan takes her back to the locker room, and of course, he doesn't care about the match. He doesn't care about the win. He doesn't care about the winner's curse, all that stuff. Macho Man has to fend off the Twin Towers here. So the dichotomy of the match is that the little small man against two big monsters. And you know what? When I'm looking at this part of the match, TW, I have to reflect on the run of Macho Man Randy Savage as the quote-unquote the man of WWF, holding on to the title, holding on to the torch. This is actually symbolic of what he's carrying the company on his shoulders against the monsters here. So, and again, now let's get into the business, not into the match. Let's just get into the business sense of Vince McMahon. Hulk Hogan is his golden goose. We know this. But Macho Man, you said it again minutes ago. He didn't get a fair shake. He could have handled the monsters. He could have had great matches against the monsters. Macho Man was AJ Styles of the 80s and early 90s. He could have had matches with the monsters, and he could have elevated the Michaels and the Harts and all that and the $1 Million Mans into the technically sound matches, and he could have had a run with the belt more than a year, 2 years. Maybe 2.5 years. What say you, TW?
It's funny because as we talk about it, I'm running through my head. I think the only person you mentioned that I even remember him having matches with is Dibiase, because he won the belt from him, so there was probably some return matches. But Shawn, I think he defended it against Shawn.
I think the only ones I remember because I had the MSG network or that.
I don't even that time. MSG. I mean, like. My point is, and if it wasn't Shawn, then I'm confusing Flair. I think Flair defended.
No, the only matches for the belt that I remember off the top of my head was Dibiase, Andre, Bad News Brown, and maybe one of the Twin Towers. That's all I can. And of course, Hogan.
When Macho Man was champion, what is the most memorable part of his reign? The Mega Power story. Mm-hmm. I can remember Hogan fighting Rick Rude, fighting Kurt Hennig, fighting Brutus Beefcake, fighting Greg Valentine. Like they would be the MSG shows, and they would show them on my news here on Sunday nights. Bernie Smilovitz, who came to New York for a little while before coming back here, he's a sports guy on our NBC channel. And you would see Hogan like against Stud, against Andre, against Bundy, against Morocco, against Orton. He would fight everybody. I don't have those memories of the Macho Man. My memories of the Macho Man as champ are teaming with Hulk Hogan in those matches, the Twin Towers, Zeus and DiBiase, him fighting DiBiase early on, but I don't remember anything after that. I don't even remember the Bad News Brown match, but I remember, and this was before he was champion, him fighting Honky Tonk Man, and that's when Brett and Neidhart held him while Honky Tonk hit him with the guitar, and was it Hogan that made to save them? Elizabeth went and got Hogan, and that was on a main event. So all of it, his whole babyface time was eclipsed by Hogan being there. And just there's a picture that they put on memes all the time of Macho Man sitting in a window seal, and you see like the mountains behind him, and he's just deep in thought like this. That was in the WWE magazine, and it was called The Macho Man's First 100 Days as Champion. I don't know why I remember it so well, because I was a Macho Man fan as a heel. I think I told the story about how I ordered the shirt from the magazine, and I thought the sizes were ages. So I ordered the 12-14, thinking it was for 12 and 14-year-olds, but it was for like probably 12 to 14-month-olds. And so it was super tight. I had to give it to my little brother. But I really, really liked the Macho Man. So when he won the belt, back when you think it's real, and even still to this day, because I know the politics involved, and when someone gets a belt, 99% of the time they earned it, So but I had this sense of pride for Macho Man, and I just thought it was such a poignant, is that it? Just it was very it was artsy how they had the picture where he's not looking at the camera, he's reflecting. And it's basically him reflecting on his first 100 days as champ. And it's just like, it was just downhill from there. Everything from that point on involved Hogan. Because, 100 days is 3 months.
I don't even remember that magazine cover. I don't even remember it. I don't recall it.
So it was the cover of the magazine. Yeah. So, or it was one of the pictures in the article inside the magazine. But do you know the picture I'm talking about? He's in street clothes, but like Macho Man street clothes.
I think I remember. Yeah, the meme you're talking about. I forget the. Yeah,
with the bandana. And
right.
Just remember reading that and just being so proud of him. You know, like, man, Macho Man did it. He's come a long way. He's the champ, and that's back when it was hard to be the champ because it was Hogan, Andre tried to give it to Dibiase, and then finally Macho Man. You know, so it's just 6 years of Hogan. You know, with the exception of the Andre thing. Well, not 6, but 5, 84 to 89. And Macho Man was the champ, and it was something new. And it almost took away from the Warrior because the Warrior wins it in 90. And so, you know, it's like, and again, Hogan's gone. And Warrior, I remember him kicking everybody's ass. The best Warrior feud was he lost his Intercontinental title to Rick Rude, which automatically made him number one contender for Warrior when he became world champion. I thought that was very well booked, very well explained. Like, well, hey, I beat you for this belt, so I should be the first guy getting a crack at that belt. And they had the cage match. Just Warrior Rude was good stuff for me. I don't remember how technically good it was, but as a kid, loved it.
But the most contributing factor here is Hogan snaked Macho Man's run. Hogan, you know, ambushed it. So now he has to, you know, fend for himself. What did you think about the locker room stuff? Like you said, you know, it took Elizabeth to push Hogan back into, you know, into ringside just to do that. So
and then he went on a dime. Like he was pussy whipped. Excuse my language, Travis. But that's what he did. It fuels the fire. It adds to the saying, how can anyone be mad at Macho Man? There's country songs called "Do You Believe Me Now," right?
Right.
It's about the guy telling his girl, "I don't like the way that dude looks at you," right? And she's like, "Oh, it's nothing, it's nothing." So then you get to the verse, "Oh, do you believe me now?" Because she's all the way across town with him because she left him for that guy, and that's the mentality Macho Man has right here. So for me, again, then even I still think Macho Man, I was a Hulkamaniac, so yeah, I think I was bummed out that Macho Man wasn't a good guy anymore, more so than I was hoping he got his revenge.
But wait a minute. Let's get into, again, the great acting of Macho Man, because now we get into the point where we remember that if anything you remember about Macho Man's run, quote unquote, as the champ, is slapping Hogan in the face during this match to give Hogan the ultimate receipt for doing everything he did 5 months prior. So what do you think about, because again, Hogan's acting sucked, but Macho Man, one slap, his eyes raged, he was great. What say you, TW, about that?
Probably a shoot is what that was. but what happened right after that? And this is my problem. Twin Towers, to me, were a tag team. Yeah, there was two singles guys got thrown together, and it was for the basically to have Hogan have two guys since he had a partner. It was, instead of Hogan, Boss Man, Hogan, Akeem, it was Hogan and Macho Man, both of them. But Macho Man held his own in there, but was getting his ass kicked when Hogan was gone. Hogan has to come save him, and Hogan not only saves him, he ends up being by himself and hits the boot in the leg and pins Akeem. And Boss Man is just nowhere to be found. Because, oh, by the way, he kicked his ass too. And that's what I mean about, you can't complain about Super Cena and not have a problem with Hulk Hogan doing it 10 years earlier, 10 times worse. Like, I'll tell you this.
But we were 10 years younger.
10, 15 years later, one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life to this day, I don't care if wrestling's fake, I don't care if they help, I dare you to try to get Big Ray and Billy Ray Valentine on your shoulders to do an F5, let alone it be the Big Show and Edge. When he did that to those two, done. And again, that's why I cheered for Cena, because everyone hated him. Now people love him again, just like they're starting to come around on Roman Reigns.
They don't love Cena. They respect him.
But dude, that guy did it longer than anybody without a break. And so, and again, I would have preferred he kept his look he had when he came out versus Kurt Angle. I hated the jean shorts and the whatever. But what did I just got through saying 45 minutes ago? It made him stand out. He looked different, and then he became the man, right? So there's something to be said about his gear. I didn't like it. I didn't like that they were making him Eminem. You know, that probably had something to do with it. But that chain game and the word life stuff, that stuff's all money. And he get his own rap.
Right.
He got a damn song. They play it at sporting events.
So now, Super Hogan does what he does against the Twin Towers, the grandstanding and all that. But now here comes acting bad again, part 3, because now he's technically pissed.
Right.
He's pissed that he got slapped.
He had done him what he did to the other guy.
Right. So what he did, now he, a light bulb hits his face because now he's pissed. But he does, the question I have, TW, before he goes back to the locker room to confront Randy Savage, who is not, consoling Miss Elizabeth. He's chastising Miss Elizabeth. So now it's the abusive boyfriend syndrome again. So I don't want to get into that part. But again, the levels of Hogan's acting going from tears, crying tears with Miss Elizabeth to now the rage. Is that great acting? He's showing you the range of a great actor. Great Hollywood actor.
He's showing you the range of Rotten Tomatoes and raspberries is what he's showing you. It's all horrible. And again, you got to make Randy the heel, so he has to chastise her. Otherwise, we're all thinking he ain't wrong. He's got to do something bad for us to think he's the bad guy.
The funny thing about this episode, Reflectionites and Big Vitoites and TW, is like, by the time the match is over, the people in the Bradley Center don't know what's going on because they don't play that stuff on their Titantrons. They didn't do that until the 90s. So you had to be home to see. This is why 15 to 20 million viewers knew that this was going to happen. And now we get into the infamous locker room scene where, Miss Elizabeth's on the medical bed, on the medical tray, being chastised by Macho Man Randy Savage. And here comes Hogan. He's pissed, but he's dumbfounded by, why is Randy doing this? And TW, Macho Man, you want to talk about great, scripting. You want to talk about like writers giving you a script to write. They gave Macho Man great stuff to write. Or Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson said, Macho, here's your bullet points. Just get it out there. Just talk about, the jealousy. Talk about, I know you wanted the title, Hogan. He even said that I'm not third on the Mega Powers, hierarchy. I'm the champ. What say you about what Macho? I'm not talking about Hogan. We already know it's bad acting. But Macho Man carried the heel turn to a pristine.
There's no way that was scripted. That was all. And I'm telling you, there's a part of him that believed everything he was saying, which is why it makes it real, like you got 1-2 in your eyes, boy.
But hold your thought. But, people say that Vince McMahon kind of like, overdoes it, micromanages to make you say certain things. Maybe there's no script.
You know what the greatest show of all time is? Kirby Enthusiasm. It's the greatest show of all time. They have no script. They get 4 comedians in a room, and they say, look, one of us has to say this, one of us has to say that, one of us has to say this, and one of us has to say that, and we got to take it home with this. Everything in between, fill in the blanks. And if you pay attention, Jeff Garlin, if you watch him, Jeff Garlin, he's from Daddy Daycare too, he is almost pissing his pants every episode because they're ribbing each other. They're killing each other. And the best part is, it's still funny to us, right? Like, of course, many times me and Scotty Libido and Chris Pilon, when we were the Canadian Imperial Alliance, we would have all these jokes in the back, and we're killing each other. We're just dying. Then we go out to the crowd and do it, and it's crickets. And we're just like, what the hell? Like, this stuff's funny. But then we realize in the back, A, we're heels, so they don't want to laugh. And B, they're inside jokes to us. Like, we get it. They don't. So... So finally we stopped doing that and just went out there and just ad-libbed whatever came to mind instead of ribbing each other in the back and cracking each other and like me and you, whenever we start, we're like, save it for the show. So that just comes out organically rather than trying to preconceive what we're going to say. And I just think back then in the 80s, guys just, hey, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Vince was like, hey, you need to just tell them why you're mad at Hogan. And then he did it. Obviously it's over Elizabeth. That's the obvious thing. But then he can say whatever he wants. And that line you said, I don't remember how he said it, but I'm not number 3. I'm the champ here. That's money. Because that's, again, it's one more reason he ain't wrong. He's right.
Not. He's
right. And I don't, in hindsight, you can't You can't out-thought him. And I don't even mean current Hogan and how he's basically divisive in the wrestling fandom. You know, like half the people love him, still half the people hate him. Macho Man was right. Everything he did and said, and again, Scooby-Doo down to 94 where his wife leaves him. And she's at Hogan's house. So it's I think that was 94, maybe 96, but
give or take.
94. It was 94 because 96 he was in WCW, so he was NWO. So
no, in 94 he was in WCW.
It was 92.
Yeah.
It was 92 because it was when Brett lost to Yokozuna, and then the Brutus Beefcake and Hogan lost to the Mega Power or the Money Inc. They didn't lose; they won by DQ or whatever they won by. But anyways, Macho Man was money. He was gold. And again, in hindsight, I do remember at WrestleMania 4 or 5, I remember being mad that Hogan beat Macho Man. I mean, I was furious. And funny enough, when you think of me, who do you think my number one guy is in wrestling?
You always love Ricky Morton. You always love the small guys.
No. Like, I have my Mount Rushmore, but of the four, who's the guy? As a wrestling fan, not as a wrestler, not as a peer, not as a critic, who's my guy?
Oh, God. Now you're going to put me on the spot because you always like Luger. You got Luger, you got Ricky Morton, you got Savage.
On the Mount Rushmore. The Mount Rushmore is I have two favorite workers, Shawn and Brett, and two favorite wrestlers, Sting and Warrior. As a fan, Sting and Warrior are 1 and 1A. Okay. I could watch both of them for days. As a peer, as a guy who wants to be like them, it's Shawn and Brett. Right. They're just lights out better than everybody else to me. But the Warrior, right? I forget where I was going with this. Thank you very much. What was your first question?
Well, no, it's not really a question because we looking what's going on in the back. Right. Again, Macho Man's acting is
I know what I was going to say.
Pristine.
I know what I was going to say.
Okay.
So just to tell you how much I like Macho Man. I was mad that Hogan beat him. Like, legit pissed off. And by 89, like I said, I'm going on 17. I was legit mad that Hogan beat Macho Man for the belt. And I just remember thinking, why is he always got to be champion? Like, let someone else, you know? And I love Macho Man. Like, he just had it. So did Hogan, but he had it. The next year, Warrior beat Hogan. The next year, the only time in my life I cheered against the Ultimate Warrior, and him losing meant he retired, and I cheered for Macho Man because I didn't want Macho Man to retire. And I think I knew deep down Macho Man was losing, right? I knew it, you knew it, everybody knew it. But what made me really mad was how Macho Man hit him with 5 elbows, and Warrior kicked out of every one of them, and then just buried him with those shoulder tackles and splashes and pinned him with his foot. I just remember thinking, that ain't no way to send Macho Man out. I was furious, but not as mad as I was at Hogan beating Macho Man again. I was so hoping Savage beat Hogan. So that Hogan Savage, that whole deal is, and at that point I used to keep a top 10 that I wrote. Remember in school you had to make the paper book covers for the school books so you protected them? So I had a brown book, and I would write with a ruler lines, and I would always have my top 10 wrestlers. And if you look back at it, especially in high school, which would have been 88, 89, 90, and 91, always heels. Perfect. Razor Ramon, Macho Man, Ric Flair snuck in there once I got cable. All these guys, and then obviously the Steamboats and the Lugers and the Stings and all that. But I think when Hogan beat Savage, that made me full on like heels more than baby faces. From that point on in my life, I was just pro heel.
We're getting older, and the Hogan winning and overcoming got passe. I mean, you saw, like I said, we saw the. Well, for me, I saw this coming. I just said I didn't know where he was going to do it. I just knew that Macho Man was going to do something to Hogan, and it happened in the ring, and it happened in the back. And the funny thing, before we even talk about, we're going to close out with the second match, which kind of was kind of like the, level down match. It was like you could go to the bathroom, you could get some popcorn, but we'll talk about the match and we'll give it its respect here, Reflectionites. But they said that the main event, that locker room scene was edited twice because Brutus Beefcake fucked up his timing, so they had to redo it. So what you saw in the main event, what I showed you, was the NBC version. But there's another version where Beefcake fucked this up. He was actually by the camera angle, in the way, and you couldn't see some of the stuff. He was like waiting for his cue to come in, and they messed it up. So if you ever see that Reflectionites and TW, it's on YouTube somewhere, somehow. Just call up.
Did you catch before Elizabeth sent Hogan back out? He was holding her hand and going, please God, don't let her be dead. And then all of a sudden he says, we need a countdown or something. And I was like, what? And then she kept opening her eyes. And then right after he said, we need a countdown or something, she opens her eyes and he looks, he goes, oh, good, you're alive. And then she sent him down there. But go back and watch it. He literally says, we need a countdown or something. Like he's looking around like, hey, bro, we need a countdown or something. Like someone coming.
But you can see the gops. You can see like the faux pas that happened in the back because, Vince McMahon wasn't doing what he did on Monday Night Raws. He wasn't doing, because it wasn't live. We know this. This was not a live show. So anyway, again, we'll give our closing thoughts, TW, about the mega powers exploding here on the main event. But we got to give before we close out, we got to give them the next match its just due. It was the fight for slavery, the fight for freedom between the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and the Mighty Hercules. And the funny thing here is, 2020 Wonder Eyes, TW, we know that this match, Hercules, he needs a win to justify everything that he did. So, but back then in the 80s, it wasn't about wins and losses. It did not matter. It mattered that he got his freedom because he was not a slave to $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. And the funny thing here is the white man is, fighting for his freedom while we have Virgil, being, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud to be a slave. He's the Samuel L. Jackson of the Django Unchained in this match between himself and $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. And of course, Ted DiBiase gets the win. I think this is before the $1 Million belt, right? Or this is starting.
Well, I mean,
we're
building up to WrestleMania 89. Didn't the $1 Million belt come around after he got screwed at 88?
Yeah, I know 89 was the start of the $1 Million belt year, but it was either before this or after this. But anyway,
WrestleMania.
It's neither here nor there. But TW, at least I wanted to give respect to the match. The storyline before it was great. The match was drizzling shits, but it's just funny to see that the white man is trying to fight for his freedom. What say you, TW?
See, there you go, assuming race.
It is race. It is always race.
Let me say it for you again. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hercules Hernandez.
He ain't Hernandez. I dispute that. His name was Hercules Schwarzenberger. It was not Hernandez. It was Schwarzenberger.
Hey, Hernandez is like his shoot name.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when he came out swinging that chain, I looked at the TV and I'm like, this is 89. I'm like, the Warrior has to be coming out to kick his ass. Like Warrior Hercules feud, right?
That was 87.
Right. Again, this is 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. When DiBiase's music came on, I'm like, what the hell? Hercules versus DiBiase? I'm like, Hercules is a babyface? The crowd didn't give a shit. He's swinging the rope like he's the Zamboni driver with a towel or an octopus at the Wings game. And the crowd was just sitting on their hands. More than likely, this match was recorded before Macho Man and Hogan's.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered something. Rockers versus Bret and Neidhart was advertised for this. And it didn't happen because of Hogan and Savage's match going so long. And I think that's why I was pissed. So when their match ended, I remember thinking, there's not that much time left. Where's the Rockers and the Hart Foundation? And so when you see Hogan in the back pushing those guys, they were calling their match because they still had it. It just wasn't on TV. And I think they might even have showed it on Superstars like the Saturday morning or Sunday morning. But I just remember, I'm like, what the fuck? That's why I'm watching this tag match, right? But it never even made it. So
wait a minute, I'm in legal, so logistically speaking, you got advertised. You say you didn't get the match, but advertisement per se, you got them on TV. So you got your Rockers and you got your Midnight Express.
I could explain why they got the gas face by Hogan. All four of them got on camera. But I just remember looking at the clock. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure this is all coming back to me now. This is 47 years drug-free living. When they said, all right, we'll be back, I remember thinking, there's not that much time left, man. The Heart Foundation Rockers are going to get screwed out of TV time. And then when it came back on and Hercules is in the ring and Dibiase comes on, I'm like, what? And then that was it. That match ended. They went and talked about Hogan a little bit more, and it was over. And I was like, what in the blue hell just happened? Where's the only thing worse was when September of 88, when I told all my friends at school to watch Clash of the Champions because the greatest match of all time was going to happen, Lex Luger versus Sid Vicious, and then it ended in 9 seconds.
Well, you might be drug.
Ole was the manager for
you
Sid.
You might be drug free, but you're not alcohol free because you was drunk when you said that. So,
15, man, give me a break.
I'll give you a break. I'll give you a pass on that. But anyway, TW, we at least gave the respect to Hercules and $1 Million Man. Again, it didn't live up to the hype, but again, the story.
Just so everyone knows, Hercules did have him in the torture rack, whatever they called it. And Virgil distracted the ref. DiBiase was able to get out and then roll him up and pull the tights for the victory. So he got a heel victory. Hercules got screwed, but they let you know that Hercules should have won because he had him in the move.
But you know what? Before we close out, just like you said that you miss gimmicks, Hercules having the Centurion gimmick of being, Hercules made him interesting, so to speak, to a degree. If he was a Johnny-come-lately like in AEW, like all these flippity-flop dudes, and he didn't have the chain, this storyline I wouldn't have cared. I would have changed the channel. That's why it wasn't 33 million viewers. It was down to 20 million. It could have been, with this match, after the main event, after the Mega Powers match, it could have went down to 7 million because what say you, TW? Again, you said, we miss gimmicks like this.
Yeah, and this is the watered-down Hercules. He just has the chain. When he came out, was it Ricky Steamboat he fought at WrestleMania 2?
Yes.
And he come out and he's got that basically Russell Crowe gladiator gear on and huge hair. And I want to say Steamboat beat him with the high cross body.
Yes.
But he looked like someone that would kick your ass, right? But again, I think Hercules might be the Samson of the WWF. Once he cut his hair, he's garbage. He
lost his powers. He lost his powers.
Power and Glory. Power and Glory was a nice little run for him. But before that, he just, when he was, I want to say he was with Blassie first and then ended up with Heenan. But Blassie was maybe when he first came out in that gladiator gear, or maybe even Fuji. But I just remember Heenan got him later.
It was Fuji.
Yeah, and Heenan got him later. But once he just watered down to the chain and swinging the chain, like that stuff with Billy Jack Haynes and the full Nelson contest and all that stuff. He just wasn't the same. But
he was serviceable and he was a good hand. And he
goes to WCW and he's the Super Invader with that pink pantyhose mask. And I just remember thinking, why? Back then,
money.
Behind the curtain stuff for you, right?
Okay.
My guess is they didn't know what to do with him because they couldn't call him Hercules Hernandez, right? That was probably copywritten. They weren't going to call him Ray Hernandez. So what do you call him? So they're like, let's put a mask on him. Because Billy Jack Haynes went there with a mask too. He was Butcher Blood or something Blood. Anyways, that's his real name. I don't know why Billy Jack Haynes did it. But Hercules, here's a fun story. Before there were contracts, guys would wear masks so they could wrestle twice. Like Danny Davis was a referee in Mr. X. Got 2 paydays. But the other reason guys wore masks is because they got the 90-day no-competes now. A guy could go on TV in a mask and wrestle. As long as no one knew it was him, he could do it. So these guys would go on TV, and that's where you'd get guys that go out there, have a mask, and then they get unmasked. And you're like, holy shit, that's that guy. It's because he had to not have his face and name on TV until the 90 days was up, because that 90 days been around for a long, long time. Or, the guarantees. Now it's like a hard 90, but you can't go on TV with a mask either. But that's why guys wore masks. But when he was a Super Invader, I prided myself back then, and WCW had a lot of guys wear masks on Saturday night. I prided myself in figuring out who those guys were. I'd see a guy in a mask, And you know what gave it away was their moves, like their movement. And Hercules is just one of those guys. He kind of walked like Frankenstein in there. You know?
His body shape kind of gave it away as a super invader. So I kind of understand what you're talking about with that per se.
And I think Billy Jack Haynes, it took me a minute. I might even had to find that out through the dirt sheets. The Phantom had to tell me in the Wrestler magazine. But when I found out, I was like, whoa, that's him, you know? Mm-hmm. But
it was the magazines that made me find out Billy Jack under the mask.
I would never, because he looked tall and lanky. He didn't look like he did in the.
And he grew his hair longer. So that was another giveaway. So you know what? Let's close this out, TW. I'll give it a little minute, a big minute here to close out on my end.
I forgot. I was going to let you know something that I figured out besides the Heart Foundation and Rockers. The doctor who's checking on Elizabeth. I'm pretty sure that's the guy. I think they call him Doc, too. Maybe not because Doc Hendricks, but he's their prop guy. He's the guy that I got my Undertaker Druid gear for and gave out the security guard shirts to everybody else. And he was the one, after you were done, you had to take it back to him. He's their prop guy that gives them all the stuff and then makes props. Like, he goes and makes stuff. And he looks exactly the same in 89 as he did in 05.
Wow. He's one of those WWE lifers or, one of those 30-year employed WWE guys. So, God bless him for having a job that long. But anyway.
People liked him, too. He was a real likable guy. He was cool to us. He treated all of us the same way he interacted with all the guys that were contract guys. He was a really, really nice guy. I hope he's still alive. I mean, that was 16 years ago, but he looked like he was maybe 50 when I was there in 05, maybe 55, 60.
If anything, he retired and he's in Boca Raton right now, collecting a good royalties from WWE Network. But anyway, let's close this out here. I'll give you a little minute here. Macho Man, this was not, they call this the, an infamous heel turn. I call this the greatest babyface turn I ever seen in my life because a man protected his woman. A man protected his spot. He did as the champion, he protected his spot. He felt the business come after him. He was feeling he was going to get snaked. This was a greatest babyface turn ever. Like you said, he was justified. Vince McMahon manipulated the masses. He can't do that no more. He tried to do that in 92 with Sid Vicious, with Sid Justice and Hulk Hogan, and the fans turned on Vince McMahon. But Vince McMahon's got him over one more time, but he knew that he could never do that again with any good guy. Once after that, because you could not manipulate the fans, he had 3 chances, TW. He let them all out with Hogan. He did it with Orndorff, Savage, Justice, and then it was it. Strike 3, you're out, and no more.
You know what they all had in common? What was really happening? They were grooming them. They were grooming them to be the guy who replaced Hogan. And Hogan knew it, and Hogan sabotaged all 3 along the way. I'm telling you, they turned those guys heel when they realized they weren't going to be the next Hogan. That's when it happens. And, unless they had the board meeting once a year and go, all right, we're going to have Savage as a good guy for this year, then you're going to have him turn, and then Hogan's going to take the belt back from him next year. Unless that conversation happened, they were planning on running with Savage. They were, because he would have been their Ric Flair. You know what I mean? Right. He would have been their small workhorse champion. You don't have to book all these Goliaths that can't work, can't move. Come on. Like, God bless him. God rest his soul. Giant Gonzalez might be one of the worst things ever, not named Yeti. And he was actually better in WCW when he first came out, where he had that, like, Spartan, like, Aztecan warrior type deal.
I don't know.
No. I'm saying the look.
The look was better. Okay, I get you. Because he looked like a wildebeest, yeah.
But not dressed as Tigra from the West Coast Avengers. It was god awful.
He looked like the cheetah from DC Comics.
Just like the Warrior wearing the muscle tone that made him look butt naked singlet.
Yeah.
Terrible look.
It is. So with that being said, Reflectionites, this has been episode 131 of the PWR podcast here at the PW Hustle Networks at podbeam.com. TW, give out those big Vito websites for us, and let's close it out.
All right. These are for you, Ray. All right. So bigvitobrand.wixsite.com. That's WIXSITE. And he has a Patreon. That's Patreon, patreon.com/The Big Vito Brand. As for me, the show is at PW Reflection. That's the Pro Wrasslin Reflection. That's on the Twitter. At Big Ray's Show is on the Twitter. Our guy, we can't do this without him. My political one is Gathering Dust is at Tommy Wonder 19. My wrestling one is at The Tommy Wonder. My Instagram is also at Tommy Wonder 19. Put all my wrestling figures and title belts and stuff like that on there. And then Facebook.com/Tommy Wonder. And I always forget this one, but this is my baby. I'm going to start selling merch. Me and my, just what's better than watching Tommy Wonder make an ass of himself? Watching him make an ass out of himself with two of his closest friends, the throuple. Dumb Duo and an Idiot. Just go to YouTube, like us, follow us, share our stuff, and just laugh at us and laugh with us. And we're learning. People prefer when we eat the hot foods, not just as much food as we can.
I'm crying because I didn't have to do it myself. I didn't have to remind you to plug your own show because it's the last couple episodes has been me to remind you that you're Mr. Dumb Duo. So,
and we appreciate
no problem. And like I said, I like you. That's why I call you the Iron Stomach. But anyway, you can follow me on my Twitter at PROFPWHustle. Well, not PROFPWHustle. PWHustle PROF. That's what it is. But anyway, of course, Billy Ray Valentine, Mr. Infinite French, he's got the documents. He knows what's going on with this impeachment trials that's going on with former President Donald Trump at Obi-Wan Yanomi. And of course, my man, 8-Track Brown, the dirtiest of the city at 8-Track Dastardly. And JB? I want to...
We forgot JB.
Who? Anyway, P1JB. That's my warning, JB. I'm just getting, I'm about to say who, but then we might forget you.
Yeah, football's over, so he doesn't have to do his gambling show anymore. He can come back home.
There you go. See? Well, unless he's going to gamble on basketball, so he's going to find another excuse. But anyway.
I watch basketball. It's a gamble whether or not I'm going to stay awake.
Yes. But you know what? Next week, TW, we're going to do a little Black History Month Pro Wrestling Spotlight. I want to give a shout out to Donna Destruction, Donnie Reynolds, because he actually gave me, the foresight of this, because he's been doing like day 1 of Black History Month, day 2 of the wrestlers, and of course, about a week ago, TW, I forget the timeline, but we lost a great wrestler, a great African-American wrestler, Hacksaw Butchery. He died too young, 66 years old. So you know what? It would be apropos. We're going to do a pro wrestling spotlight on the tag team of Doom, Hacksaw Butchery, and the all-American Ron Simmons. So TW, get your homework in with the matches they had with the Steiner brothers.
Skyscrapers has to be in there.
We'll find it. I will find something for you. Doom versus somebody, but we're going to give the respect to Hacksaw Butchery, but we're going to focus on the tag team career of Doom. And with that being said, I'm the Professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, the Iron Stomach, TW, Tommy Wonder, saying good night and see you next time. And TW, close it out for us, please.
You got lust in your eyes, brother.
Lust in your eyes. Oh, yeah. Dig it.